Right, so another common question. When I set out investing, this was another thing that I searched. And it was a question I got in a previous video. So, should you self-manage your properties or should you use a letting agent? Now, before we get into this, I want to touch upon another comment that I received in a previous video where someone said that property investing can't be that stress-free. You just need to look at the crow's feet around your eyes. Fucking hell, cheeky bastard. You're probably not wrong, mate. Also as well, I've had my own company and I've been self-employed for 15 years, so you're maybe not wrong when I go this way. So I think like when most people start out, you're penny pinching at the start. You know, when you're doing your refurbs, you're thinking of ways to cut corners, and then when it came to the management of the properties, I was thinking to myself, well, I don't want to be giving out 10% of everything I'm making every single month, because that is a decent hefty sum. You know, you're talking about potentially in between £600-700 per property, and I was thinking, well, if I'm doing that over 4 or 5 properties, that's potentially, you know, £3.5 a year that I would be giving to someone else. But the truth is that over the last 2 or 3 years, I have probably lost that self-managing and making mistakes along the way. So thankfully over the last kind of 4.5 years, there's only been a couple of tenants where I've felt there's been stuff that's happened where I was like, oh fuck. But there's one that really stands out, and it was a second property that I'd purchased, and we got a decent refurb done in the property, spent a lot of money on it, and the plumber who done the boiler, helped fit the bathroom, he at the end of the refurb said, by the way, are you letting this out? I'm actually looking for somewhere just now. And I was like, brilliant. Ready-made tenant, he's worked in the flat, he's hardly going to come in and fuck the place up. He should be an ideal candidate. Didn't do any background checks. This is a thing that I've learned, that even though I assumed that I'd have trusted this person, I still hadn't done any background checks. I hadn't checked his credit file, any references, absolutely nothing. And this is something that your letting agent will absolutely do. They will check everything for you. I didn't do that. So I put a tenant in, and everything was going absolutely fine for the first 4 or 5 months, and then all of a sudden payments started to dry up. Payments were late, you know, 5 days late, 10 days late, a month late. So because we'd done a decent amount of work on the property, we wanted to refinance it early, so we had to get the surveyor into the property to do the refinance. Couldn't get into the property, and like I said to you, I told them not to put any brackets on the walls or put any nails in, and we managed to get access to the property, and he'd put a fucking dartboard on the wall, and yeah, he wasn't exactly fucking Michael Van Gerwen, you know what I mean? All the wall round about was just covered in dart holes, and also as well, for some strange reason, they'd taken all the fucking sockets off the walls as well. So yeah, if I'd have just paid for a letting agent the 10%, it would have cost me about £600 for that year, and they would have vetted the tenant, they would have done all the background checks, they would have saved me doing a fucking refurb potentially, because I had to go in, we had to replaster the whole flat, we had to refit all the sockets, make sure all the electrics was fine again, and we had to get the whole place decorated. So that refurb again cost me a good few grand to get the property back up to scratch again, which could have been absolutely mitigated if I'd have just used a letting agent. That's just the one example, but there's been loads of little things where you get called out. Also things with legislation and stuff that I'm not up to speed on, you know, and with the Scottish Government that was in, things were changing so much over the last couple of years, it was hard to keep on top of things. What were we allowed to do, what weren't we allowed to do, and tenants' rights, which I agree with, you know what I mean, the tenants absolutely got to have rights as well. I rent, before anybody dives in the comments, fucking landlord. I also rent, you know, so I'm a tenant as well, so I can see it from both sides of the argument and both perspectives as well. So yeah, that was it. So as I say, initially you're trying to penny pinch, you've got your goal of building a portfolio, and you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't want to be giving X amount away to a letting agent and it's going to then increase the time frame it takes me to again build the portfolio or get to the next property, but it actually in the long term costs you more money. There's one other thing, look at this property. Yeah, I'll leaf it through that door, get that below market value. So another positive that I've noticed since handing over the portfolio to the letting agent is that maintenance costs haven't been that expensive. I'd assumed that I'll give the property portfolio over, and then anything that needs done, their tradesmen, they'll be skimming extra off, and it'll cost a fortune. But that's not what I've found so far. Everything's been kind of cost effective. You'll have seen the last refurb that I've done, one of the previous videos, and yeah, I don't know if it's the fact that they use their own in-house maintenance team and they get discounts, maybe because they're doing so much in bulk, they're maybe able to hand that over onto essentially their customer, which is me. So again, it's been really cost effective. Also, if you're using a letting agent, the fees that you pay out to the letting agent, whether it's your 10% or 8%, it's actually tax deductible as well at the end of the year, so you can put it through your books. So whatever you pay out, you get 20% of it back, which is a nice wee bonus and helps bring the costing down. So when you look at it like that over the piece, and the amount of money that I have paid out trying to self-manage and make decisions myself, I'm definitely out of pocket. And like I say, I'm not up to date with the legislation changes and stuff, and rumour has it that they're going to be bringing in assessments as well for self-managing landlords, because they'll need to have them using the same kind of software and stuff as the letting agents, and they should be trained on it, and that I absolutely agree with as well. So that's just my perspective. Any comments? None about the crow's feet. Just like, comment, subscribe, and I'll try my best to answer anything else.